Hello everyone. It's time for some more CMOS battery removing adventures from another laptop I bought at the VCF East swap meet. This time it's a CTX EzBook 800 series, and I wasn't originally going to record this because all I was doing, I had no idea what kind of CMOS battery this had. I was just going to tear this thing apart to check to make sure it wasn't one of those VARTA batteries. And that's when I got the keyboard off. This thing's tricky to disassemble. The keyboard's held in with a bunch of clips. No screws. I did unscrew a few on the bottom, but I couldn't find anyone who had taken it apart in the past. But if you look down there, I see a VARTA barrel battery. 386 motherboard style. So yeah, we gotta get this guy apart. And this is gonna be interesting, because I have no idea how to get into this. The whole top case literally, goes around and behind the display in a way that there's no way you could get it off without getting the display off. So I have quite literally zero clue where to go from here. The front of this is ready to come off, but the rest of it is not. But what I do know, okay, this is part of the heat sink. Interesting. Anyways, what I do know is that this has to happen. And it looks like, luckily, this plate here is just a metal plate I can remove. But yeah, like I said, this needs to get removed because that is a soldered battery, which is A, annoying, and B, gonna leak. Definitely gonna leak. I wish they just used one with a connector. That's a big ol' pain. But since it's mounted directly to the motherboard, it's gonna cause completely catastrophic damage when it leaks. So this is something we absolutely must do right now. And if you have one of these, yeah, you know what to do. Get those batteries out. Haha, yes. There's that K6 AMD processor. There's our little heatsink. And there's the stupid battery. And yeah, it's a little VARTA. I'm gonna break it right off, because... yeah. Oh, and look at that! There's an empty, unpopulated 2-pin connector there. I'll bet there was an option for one of the other style batteries, and they just didn't use it. Is this just pressure fit? I'm not gonna mess with the CPU. All we need to do is get this battery out and have a quick peek around to make sure there aren't any others. But, I mean, is this gonna have a suspend battery? You never know. But that could also be used as one. That's 3.6 volts. 60 milliamp hours. Could it? Usually the suspend batteries are 7 volts. Anyway, I'm gonna go get the wire cutters. Check your laptops. So far, every one of these has had one of these batteries. Let's just use the twist method. Metal fatigue. Take this thing off like it's a capacitor. Even though it really is a capacitor, just a really big one that can do really big damage. I'm surprised I'm not seeing any visible leaking yet. Maybe there will be on the other side. Other side's leaking. I can see it very clearly, and it's not leaking even a little bit. It's leaked a lot. But this still works, so... yeah, oh no. That's bad. That's real bad. Okay, how much damage did that do? A good bit. I'm surprised this still boots, and I'm really happy I opened this up. I'm gonna take a closer look at this and clean it. You know, I'll just toothbrush IPA now. Man, VARTA. It's so interesting to me to see how desktops all stopped using these quickly. But then these laptops, man, they all did. Okay, and that just all got scooped right up. So, caught it just in the nick of time, because I'm not seeing any damage. I'll take a closer look, but in any event, this system works right now, so I'm not going to mess with it too much. But, wow. Soldered VARTA barrel battery. Right down there in a laptop. I've seen that in really old ones, but not one this new. You see, now I'm worried because it might not just be one. There could be two. There could be a second one hiding somewhere for use in as a suspend mode battery. For like sleep swapping batteries, which I guess would be something you could do on one of these pretty easily. Like here's its main battery. I don't know. I'm just gonna have a look around further off camera, take a closer look at the damage from that battery, and yeah. Yeesh. Okay, things have devolved quickly here, which is unfortunate. I saw that there was a good bit of corrosion back there, so I wanted to get this whole thing off to take a look, and I figured that the only way to do that is that the whole top assembly, screen included, had to probably come off. And then as I was doing that, the left hinge just exploded completely. Standoffs just destroyed. So, and I still can't figure out, I think there's a screw under here, but I'm having a really hard time getting this cover off. You see, this is the bad part of vintage laptops. When you try to just take one apart and everything falls apart, but I had to get at this. So it's really unfortunate that this happened, because there's no 3D printed template for this, and the standoffs broke into several pieces, I'm sure. One of them fell out. So I don't know if I can glue them back together or what, but this is screwed. Like, this is not good. So, for now, I'm gonna try to take the screen assembly apart. That's my next move, because I gotta get a look at this, stop this from getting further, and maybe if I take the whole screen assembly off first, then I can get at the base. Well, that went about as badly as it could have gotten. It's been weeks since I recorded those first 2 clips that you saw, and it's dead. It was working before I took it apart, and now it isn't, and the corrosion is what did it in, but this is a kind of case where I really couldn't have won. It was too far gone even while it was working, and because I had 2 routes I could have gone. Either way, that battery had to come out. Absolutely had to, or it would have ruined it either way. So I had to do that, but after that, I could have A, gotten the bulk of the gunk that it had collected near there out, and then left the rest alone, and not treated the corrosion. Now, I feel like long term, that would have caused further corrosion from damage that was still there, but cleaning it off actually had the effect, I think, of like undoing some connections that were still intact and making them flaky, intermittent, and stop this thing from working. So now what happens when I plug it in? Well, first what happened is I did like a spot test. I took apart the screen assembly, and this is kind of annoying. You do have to do it because there's like a screw here under this, and you can't get this off until you take the whole screen plastics apart. So I did that, and then I removed this daughter board here, which the screen connects to. All the buttons and lights are here as well. And then I cleaned really well under here, because what's under here, there is this one connector that this daughter board connects to, and there's actually another connector right like under here for it as well. There are 2. And then the corrosion had gotten to this connector and even wicked its way up to the connector on the other side on this board a little bit. I saw some green corrosion, so I cleaned all that really well. I did also notice several bad traces right at ground 0 of where the battery had leaked, and it looks like most of these trace out to the PCMCAA slots, so very, very likely those slots would not have been working before I even touched it, but I had never tested those. So anyways, I cleaned that all up. I put it mostly back together. I had gotten everything reattached except for the heatsink and the keyboard. And then I plugged it in, powered it on, and the fan spun up, which this stupid little fan spins at all times when this thing's running. And some lights came on, but I got no screen activity and no post. And When I felt the CPU, it was really, really warm, probably because I didn't have the heatsink on. So I like put my hand on it, and then like as I applied that pressure, suddenly screen comes on, and oh, look at that, it's posting. Great. So I figure, okay, it probably was just a little too hot, and when I put my fingers here and applied pressure, it used them as a heat sink and momentarily posted, because when I would take my fingers away, the screen would disappear. I don't think that was the case, which I'll get to in a minute. So then I put the heat sink on, I put the keyboard on. I would go to power it on again. I did this all off camera because it was just reassembling, and then I was going to show it when it's done, right? And the fan doesn't spin up anymore. No post, no screen, no signs of life, no beeps, no nothing. The only thing that would happen is a couple of these LEDs would light up, one for like charge connected and like battery charge. That's it. And they'd go off when I press the power button, like they'd cycle as if it was off and then on, but it wasn't like getting all the way. And so I figured the first area I turned my attention to was the CPU. And I'm just going through my troubleshooting here. Hope this isn't boring. This is just how my process was. So I go and I look first to the CPU, because my thinking at the time is this corrosion was already there. The corrosion shouldn't be any worse from when before I touched it. So even though this would be the obvious suspect, it can't be, because it was working as is before. So I turned my attention to the CPU, thinking that it must have a seating problem. Something I did when reattaching the heat sink must have caused an issue, and the socket's a weird design, so I figured maybe that's part of the issue. Because another thing was, in the state now, the CPU was ice cold. It wasn't getting warm at all. It was failing at a very early stage in post, because I found out later when I removed the CPU and figured out how the socket worked, which let me go get a screwdriver actually to show you. Okay, so the way this socket works is you put a flathead screwdriver in here and go like that. Turn it that way, and then it will pop loose, and you can remove it. And there we have AMD K62 300 megahertz. I believe this is a desktop chip as well, not a mobile chip. I think that was mainly a cost-cutting measure, at least during the 90s. And yeah, so then when you want to reinsert it, you use this other one and press it in with a flathead screwdriver, and then it seats, locks in place, all secure. So it took me a while to figure out how the socket worked. And once I did, I was pretty confident this wasn't a CPU seating issue like I thought it must have been. Now, at that point, around the same time this led to a dead end, I noticed something else. So this light right here, labeled AC, was intermittent. Sometimes it would light up really dim. Other times it would flicker when it was in that no post state. And what I figured out is if I applied pressure in different areas of the board, like really hard on the CPU, connection forming there from that symptom when it was still posting if I put pressure on the CPU, but also over here, right where the battery was. And at that point, I started to get a new idea, which is to do with this connector in there. I'll bet some of the pins there are flaky and from the corrosion, because the corrosion got there pretty well on both sides actually. And so I thought perhaps they were making contact before, and when I lately scrubbed with a toothbrush and isopropyl alcohol, that sort of broke away a connection. Some of the pins became flaky. And so like if I apply pressure, the pin that drives this light will work intermittently and that'll light up, but clearly stuff's broken enough that not enough pins are connecting there to the point where, or legs rather, where it can initialize the screen, initialize the computer. And I'm assuming with this not operational, the computer doesn't even try to post because there's important functions here. The speakers hook in here, other stuff like that. So that, I believe, is what's caused the death of this. Now, I did go in there and try to reflow this connector, but you'll see there LN1. I'm not sure what that component actually is. I looked up at the board notation and I couldn't find anything. You can't see super well. Let me actually take this off. LN1 looks pretty rough, right? Doesn't look good. And on both sides here, there is corrosion damage. You're not going to be able to see the other side really well. So I did go and try to reflow this side that I can access. I have yet to figure out how to take out the motherboard on this. I believe I have to remove this module, but it's stuck fast, which is weird because this should be a removable module, but it is stuck in. I released the release latch, pried really hard. Something on here, this is stuck fast, so I don't know what's up with that, but point is I can't get the motherboard out either. I don't want to risk breaking it more. So in the end, VARTA did this one in. I tried reflowing this. I'm not the best at that sort of thing, so I probably didn't do a great job. But honestly, with this many bad traces, LN1, which seems directly related to this, looks like it's gotten worse. I reflowed that too, attempted, but I think one of the legs might have been broken on that or something. Point is, corrosion killed this thing long before I opened it. I just ended up making it worse, but no matter what I did, I couldn't have won in this situation, I think. So that's an outline of how I troubleshooted this thing and how I think this thing died. So yeah, this is a different kind of video. I don't normally post my failures that often because I just don't think they make for super interesting content. It's not like I'm afraid to say that I couldn't fix something. I'm doing this now. But I figured I'd try. I mean, half this video is going to be me explaining why this thing didn't work. So if you find this enjoyable, let me know in the comments. And I'll do more of these when I have some project go wrong, which doesn't happen too often. In the end, I think I paid 20 bucks for this at the swap meet, so I'm not out too much. It's a shame that this didn't work out well, because I do think this is a neat little laptop, and I don't have very many AMD laptops, that sort of thing, and it's got some neat features on it, but in the end, not everything works out, and this one didn't, so that's all. I got more stuff coming up next week. You should get the second to last video in the Swap Meet project series, which is going to be a look at the T61. We're going to get it running. And after that, the final part will be a summary, basically. I'm going to go through all the systems I got there again quickly, talking about what I've done to them, because some of the stuff I've done, like setting up some of the Pentium 3 laptops with SSDs and stuff, isn't interesting enough for a video, but I want to do a full video going over all that I've done, getting stuff running, that sort of thing. So that's going to be in 2 weeks, and then after that, I got more fun stuff coming up that's unrelated to some of these systems. So yeah, plenty of good stuff. I hope you all enjoy. See everyone next time. Have a good one.